Welcome to another edition of Possibilities, the official podcast of the Michigan Developmental Disabilities Institute, otherwise known as MI-DDI. I'm your host, Roosevelt Belton Jr., the Dissemination Coordinator here at MI-DDI. Today, we continue our series on the past, present, and future of our institute. In this episode, we're focusing on the future, highlighting the vision and direction of MI-DDI in the evolving world of disability. We're going to start this episode with our current director, Sharon Milberger, as she reaffirms the importance of reflecting on 40 years of service.
When I started in my role, I thought, I noticed that, we started at Wayne State in 1983. This was in 2016. I thought, when it gets to our 2023, we'll do something for our 40th. Well, that was a blink of an eye. And we really spent some time thinking, what do we want to do for our 40th? And we realized how important it is that even when we were talking among our team, I didn't know everything about our history. And we wanted to make sure that we capture that. It's so important to know where we've been, all that's been accomplished, and so it can guide us. So we can celebrate, of course, and honor those that came before us and all the wonderful work they've done, but to have it guide us as we go forward. So I'm so excited that we did this because I learned a lot, and our history is important. It should be celebrated, and we must keep going forward, and we don't want to repeat mistakes of the past. So I think that in reflecting on the past 40 years, and it's really hard to believe, 40 years, I think it's really important to reflect and to hear about our history, to understand the context of where we started and where we are now. There was so much critical advocacy and important work that got us to where we are today, many accomplishments to achieve our mission and hit on all our 4 core functions. I think we're going to celebrate because there's a lot to celebrate. And I think it's important to reflect on what worked well and what the challenges were and what was overcome. Because the last thing we want to do is and maybe even inadvertently with good intentions, to slide backwards or go backwards. We must build off of the successes and move forward. And the way that I view MI-DDI is that we're the bridge between the ivory tower of academia and the community. And it's so important that we're not in our own little bubble at the university, but that we really are translating the work that we do and bringing it to the community and working with the community. I think that one of the key things is the move away from the medical model to the community model. And our mission throughout the 40 years has stayed the same, and that is to promote community inclusion and quality of life for people with disabilities and their families. So the mission's been the same, but the framework in which we've been working has significantly changed.
That was MI-DDI Director and MI-LIND Co-Director Sharon Milberger. Now, we're going to hear Angela Martin, MI-DDI's Senior Associate Director, as she explains that the future involves building new relationships and understanding of those with disabilities.
The future, I think what is going to change is the advance of how people live, work, and participate in communities changed a lot. We've obviously known that in the last few years, right? We have maybe made changes more quickly than we may not have had the pandemic happened or other things may not have happened. I do think that one thing that will continue to be really important to the work that we do is that MI-DDI is a connection to research, technology, healthcare. We're connected by the university, and we can be that bridge to people with disabilities. So things that are coming that are important to people with disabilities, we can find and develop research to respond to that, and vice versa. The part that I think is going to change a lot is how healthcare, science is viewing people with disabilities, where they're really starting to drive questions, just important questions for their life, versus what's happened in the past, which has been researchers or scientists came up with a question and said, "Oh, those are the questions that are important to you, right?" And they were never the right questions. But really seeing people with disabilities as equal partners in research, development, and innovation. I think those are it's going to be a partnership development where that will be different. Continuing to develop new leaders and leaders that are reflective of the diversity of our communities is really important.
You just heard from Angela Martin, MI-DDI's Senior Associate Director. Coming up now is Elizabeth Janks, a current research technician at MI-DDI. Here, she explains why quality of life should be a key factor in the future of those with disabilities.
I would like eventually for us really not to have to exist, right? I would hope that we've achieved full opportunity for people with disabilities, and then we wouldn't need to do, grants around, implementing projects to try to eradicate the barriers that exist for people with disabilities. I think we would all want that, but as that might be some time away from us, I think that, we just keep on doing the work we're doing, exciting projects, innovative projects. One thing we do a really good job of at the Institute is we're really able to keep our mission always in focus. So we keep moving forward with that and just trying to, keep the barriers down for people so that people can get jobs and make, an actual living wage, and people can live in communities where they want to live. So I'm hoping we'll just keep moving forward with what we've been doing. And
that was Elizabeth Janks. We're moving on now to Michael Bray, the current training director for MI-LIND. Here, Michael tells us why the current staff gives him optimism for the future.
Currently, I'm most pleased with the Michigan LEND program. I'm a training director for that program, and that trains future healthcare professionals to work with families with neurodevelopmental disabilities, with children with disabilities. So that's been extremely impactful. I'm definitely most proud of that our program. We're in our 8th year, and that program has grown a lot. We've been able to train over 6,000 individuals in that time. What I'm most optimistic about is that we're going to continue to grow. I think, with the staff we have now, and we have some new people coming on, and younger people. We have younger staff coming on board now, which is vital to any organization, going on into the future. So I'm very optimistic about the impact we're going to have. In many different areas, not only in training future healthcare professionals, for example, but also in really being able to put information out there along the lines of disability rights. That's one I'm very optimistic about, because that's a space that's really growing, and we're really working hard to make sure that individuals with disabilities are part of that conversation. There's disability intersects everything. It's not dependent on where you were born or where you grew up or who your parents were. It's just there. Most of us will have a disability someday. So it's something that it really, if you phrase it like that, it's like, oh yeah, this is very important to think about. So, I would say I'm most optimistic about our up and coming staff, and the direction we're going in that conversation in particular.
Now, we're going to hear from Leonardo Bravo, public speaker, disability advocate, a former MI-LIND trainee, and member of MI-DDI's community transition trainers. Here, Leonardo explains that the future involves removing the stigmas around disability.
So my name is Leonardo Bravo, and I'm a community transition trainer in MI-DDI. I started working with MI-DDI 4 years ago. I was actually looking for a job kind of in the round of being an advocate for people with disabilities, but I didn't know quite what. And thanks to my social worker and my parents who have supported me, I found MI-DDI, and I've been working there ever since. The impact is very, very important because it's for the future of people with disabilities, like I said, to cut down that stigma, to make people realize that people with disabilities are just the same as everybody else, and we can do the same as everybody else, and we are allowed to live our lives just like everyone else. I see in the future for MI-DDI people with jobs, people with housing, people with just living everyday life just like a regular person, being allowed to make a decent amount of money to provide for themselves, and just being whatever they want to be. So I think what I'm encouraging people to do is just to get out there and do whatever you want to do, if that's in the realm of advocacy. But you don't have to necessarily, do public speaking. You can always be an advocate. But mainly my goal of teaching people is, like I said before, is just doing what makes you happy and not putting any limitations within yourself. If other people doubt you, let them doubt you, but you don't put limitations on yourself. Let other people put limitations on you and then prove them wrong. Again, I work with people constantly on an everyday basis, and what I don't want to see and what I see now is a lot of people sitting at home and not getting the services that they want, and that's where MI-DDI comes in. We really work hard to help people with disabilities not only get the services that they need, but provide a better future for them. And that's why I do what I do, because people with disabilities have so much potential, and they have so much to give to others and their communities. So we need to see that in the future. And I think MI-DDI is doing a great job and will continue to do a great job.
That was Leonardo Bravo. Now, we're going to end this episode with the vision of the future from our director, Sharon Milberger.
When thinking about disability, it's really important to keep in mind how common disability is. And it's a natural part of the human experience. And most of us, almost all of us, will be touched by disability, affected by disability at some point in our lives, whether directly or through a family member or friend. We have to think, when we think about the disparities that people with disabilities experience, we're talking about a lot of people, pretty much everyone. That's why it's so important to keep disability in mind when we think about community and quality of life, health, well-being, and thriving. It affects all of us.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Possibilities, the official podcast of Michigan Developmental Disabilities Institute. This is the end of our 3-part look into the past, present, and future of our organization. Please stay tuned as we continue our podcast with more exciting guests and interesting topics, all focused on disability. If you'd like to keep up with future episodes or learn more about our work, please visit our website at ddi.wayne.edu/possibilities. Thank you, and until next time, keep exploring your possibilities.